I've not heard of many people filming with 360 cameras in war zones. What made you decide to do that, and what was the thought process?
Yeah, I would say I'm proud to say that our company has been one of the first, and I would say still, one of the first war zone filmmakers in 360. And we started doing stuff for Riot News, which they're called Riot, which was bought by Huffington Post. I want to say AOL, and now there's something different. I think it's called Oath, but is Verizon AOL. And so we were with them before that, and Christian, Steven, who's my business partner, we wanted to do the first Warzone film inside VR Warzone film inside Syria. So we helped on the logistics side, and he went and filmed inside Aleppo, I believe, for 2 days, the streets of Aleppo, and this was in 2000, towards the end of 2015, and yeah, he came back with an incredible piece. And then he has a crazy story, which you should interview him about. He was captured by the Turkish intelligence after that and was in prison for like 3 nights, and that ordeal trying to get him out was crazy. And so he launched us off. He did an amazing job. One of our good friends was the one that helped us get all the access inside Aleppo and everything. And so from there on, we started doing a lot of 360 projects. And I would say that's probably right now is what we've been doing the most. And it's good, and it's still very labor intensive for professional VR. There are cameras, like I would say if you wanted to first start out getting into VR, the Garmin Verb 360 is great. You can even do some professional shoots on it if you wanted to, but it is really small, so it depends what your client wants to look like. That's more of a professional shoot. So we really just, yeah. So we really just kind of just took off with it. We were just like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And it just kept being a rolling effect, and we're now have produced probably close to 20 to 25 pieces of VR, and we have 4 projects in VR for Iraq this coming year. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of virtual reality stuff, and I would say we do 360 video. So
yeah, because VR, there's a bit of a difference, isn't there? Do you want to just spell out for people what the difference is? Because I think a lot of people aren't really aware of the difference between VR and 360.
Yeah, so what we really do is 360 video, which is live action video. And virtual reality is kind of like the overarching effect, but there's a lot of different things that go into play. I would say VR is more, VR is a term that you could just throw if people are just starting to get it, but specifically we do 360 video. And then you have augmentative reality, which is almost physical elements, and you can interact with it right in front of you. So this technology is constantly changing, and even 360 video, is going to be vastly different. I think you're going to start seeing 360 video where you can actually interact in live action, saying as it's going, you want to look at different angles all at the same time. I think you're going to start seeing that in sports first, and then see it just because of the technology. So imagine watching a soccer match or a football match, and you have live 360, and you can actually place yourself in different areas. So it wants to be untethered. So the headset technology really needs to get better before more consumers start watching it, because most people watch it on Facebook and YouTube, which is not really the way you want to consume 360 video. So I still think
by the time you scroll around, you've usually missed whatever it is you were meant to see.
So I would say it was kind of, in the beginning, it was like the cool, and you didn't see really that too much good content on it, mainly because you had to keep it simple, because most people were consuming it on Facebook and YouTube. And so most people don't have VR headsets, and Apple doesn't have a headset yet. There are some third-party headsets for it, but it's not that good. So there's quite a few years before, I would say, at least for 360 videos for the journalism, it should really get going. But it is here, and it should be taken seriously for journalists to really start thinking about doing it. And I think it's great for freelance journalists because it provides another way. New York Times does a great job. I would say they're probably the best ones pumping out content and getting journalists to, really try it out.
I mean, would you say then, if people are listening to this, especially freelancers, that there is a market, that people are buying?
Yeah, absolutely. There are, I would say platforms are still trying to figure out. I would say the Times, New York Times, is really far ahead when it comes to the news world, as figuring out how to monetizing it, how to shoot it, the correct workflow for freelancers. You can they're putting out 360 videos every single day. So, and the budgets for 360 videos, since it's still relatively new, are higher than, I would say, than the traditional photos or, shooting video. So I would say for freelancers shooting 360 video, they should look into it because it's just another way. It's hard to just do photos and it's hard to just to do video. So you have to I had to learn all this on my own just to, make money in the day.
What kit are you using then? What have you evolved your kit to now?
Yeah, so this is the Garmin Verb 360. So it's a 2. So I would say the best and cameras are just coming out, just in DSLR cameras in general. I feel like there's a new camera every 3 months. And with 360 videos, it's not even more. So I would say the Garmin 360 Verb has been pretty great. This is water resistant and it can go underwater, and it shoots 5.7K footage. It can do 4K self-stitch, all on the app on your iPhone. So I would say if journalists want to get into 360, I would say this is the camera to do it. So this has been great for run and gun situations. And other camera is the Samsung Gear VR, which is great for run and gun. That's the only camera really that the New York Times daily 360 video uses. Now for professional shoots and the cameras that I usually shoot on, Garmin has been great for really tight spaces and really run and gun. But even like in Mosul, I shot on a camera called the Zcam S1, which is a professional virtual reality camera, and it's about this big. It's probably about, with the battery on it, it's probably close to 10 inches. Without it, it's about 6 inches, and that's a 4 lens. That's great. The picture quality is amazing. And VR is all about shooting high def. Even 4K, you almost want to shoot it in 6K and then downgrade it to 4K, especially on a VR headset. If your main video is targeted for YouTube and Facebook, you can get away with just 4K or even maybe just a step below. So I would say the Zcam S1 has been our main camera choice, which is a 4 lens, and it's a camera company out of Hong Kong, and they have a great community support system. You can literally Facebook message this Facebook group and they'll answer any questions that you have. So they've been really fantastic. And then the other one obviously is the GoPro Omni, which is GoPro's 6-cam rig. That's great for environments, landscape. The software that you use is called Color, and it's very friendly with that software. That's a little bit more on the expensive side, but it's still a great camera. There's not like a true one VR camera, which makes it very frustrating. Each camera does something really well. One might not shoot well. I would say the Omni doesn't shoot that well in low light. Zcam shoots really great in low light and overall, but the software on the post side is still a little bit more difficult because Zcam is not like a GoPro or a Garmin where they have software is still relatively new company. Yeah. So yeah, I would say if you're looking to get really into VR on a professional scale, I think the Z camera is great. For journalists and freelancers, I would either get the Samsung Gear VR camera or most likely I would get the Garmin Verb 360, which is about $800 US. Yep.
Okay, I've currently got one that was given to me. I don't know how you pronounce it, Theta S or Theta.
Yeah, Theta.
It's rubbish.
Yeah, it is. The quality is not. It was one of the first ones, and we did a lot of that in 2015. Just because there wasn't really any other camera, and at that time you would have to take 6 GoPros, put them in and then you have to individually hit record on all of them, and then remember to clap and sync it. And imagine doing this all especially in a conflict zone environment. You know how GoPros are. You have to like take the battery out just to unfreeze it. So imagine one of them unscrewing it all, take the battery, put it back in, and reformat the settings. So cameras now is much better. You have like the GoPro Omni now is all synchronized, so you don't have to worry about clapping or anything like that. Yeah, but there is a new Theta coming out that's going to be similar to like the Garmin Verb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I need to practice with it more, but I'm tempted to go for one of the ones you've been talking about, maybe the Garmin. But I mean, moving on then, tell us a bit more about the project you've been working on in Mosul. I know you sent me a rough cut of some stuff you'd been doing, and it looked amazing. What exactly is the project, and when will people be able to see it?
Yeah, so what we really wanted to focus on was what would be a long format VR documentary. I think right now you see VR content or 360 content, they shoot it and they really want to post it to be the first, and I think we came up with the idea of let's really take our time with this 360 project. And a lot of times that we went to Iraq was for other shoots, and then we would take 3 or 4 days and go back what we really want to get in 360. And that's kind of how we did that for over a year. So we literally have footage from before the Mosul operation all the way up to the liberation of Mosul, and after, and now post Mosul. And at first we were just going to tell this story as a narrative, just what the battle for Iraq was going through. But what we notice is myself and my business partner Christian, we're in the videos, so much of it, mainly because it's just a complex. So imagine setting up a camera in a conflict zone and trying to hide from the camera, which is impossible. So we're in the shots, and what you see, you get a reaction of what journalists goes through in conflict zones, and not just the firefights or the close calls, but even the interviewing of hurt victims and interviewing, seeing things, and you get your reaction that you don't really notice until you look back on it. So I think there's far more experienced war journalists than Christian and I. We've been probably doing it since when I was in college, and so I'm 28 now. So fairly good, but you do kind of see intake of what young war journalists go through. And I think we want to tell the story of Iraq, which generally as journalists you try not to put yourself in the story, but this is so different because you're physically in the story and you get your reaction. So that's why we're calling it War Life, and it's about the battle for Iraq through a war journalist's eyes.
And do you know what platforms that might be running on yet, or is it still too early to say?
We're currently in talks with a few platforms, and we're kind of deciding if we want to go through the film festival route, where we create the film and have sponsors, or we just partner with a news platform to just go ahead and take the piece. So we're kind of in discussions right now, what we're doing, but I'll do official release of the trailer and about the film probably end of this month. So yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, keep us posted. And then just quickly then on that point, what were the main issues you found? I mean, we've touched on some already, but shooting 360 in such a terrifying environment, what advice would you have for people who maybe want to do something similar?
Yeah, I think the natural, first of all, it's all about the story. I think the natural reaction for people shooting 360 the first time is just going out there and just putting the camera in the, in a cool area or extreme area, which, if you get the right scene, yeah, you can probably get that sold. But I think that's the initial reaction is people will just want to go take the camera into a really cool place and kind of forget what the story is. So I think you really have to figure out what your story needs to be, even like who you're going to interview, and if you're following a medic inside, like Hallelujah is about to start. So I would love to do a story on this U.S. volunteer medic that's going into Hallelujah, and so it'd be a 360 process of from Erbil all the way how he gets to the front line and what his work is. So it would be no different than getting a story how you set it up in a 2D environment. And so I would say the difficulty part is obviously the filming. You really have to be aware. So if I'm talking to you in person and I put the camera about, a foot away, me talking to you, my face about closest foot away is going to look really weird in person. Well, that's going to look really weird in a 360 environment. So being aware how to compose your shots, which is different because there is no like framing, but there is framing though. You really have to frame up the environment and you have to capture the environment. And then post-production is, you have to remember a lot of things, the settings and the audio, and now cameras are getting a lot easier, so it's going to solve a lot of those questions. And so just don't rush into it. Don't buy all this equipment. Make sure you have the right story, and I would pitch the story first before just go out and buying equipment and go film, because that's a lot of money to spend, especially for freelance journalists.